Thank you so much, Diego, and good morning, everybody. It's an honor to get a chance to visit with you this morning and share some of my perspective on the great work that you do. I met my amazing wife when I was 19 years old, and I chased her around for about 7 years, and I finally convinced her to marry me 27 years ago. And we wrote our own vows at our wedding service, and a key part of the vow was we promised to share together a life filled with laughter and joy. We have 5 children, and they have been the source nearly entirely of that amazing laughter and joy. I have been fortunate to live a very full life thanks to the people close to me, especially those amazing kids. I have read many nighttime stories to my children, and I have spoken to them during the night when they wake up worried that there's something under the bed or something in the closet. And I have, to those 5 children over 27 years, many times told a lie. And the lie I told was that monsters are not real, that there's nothing to worry about, go back to sleep. You know that's a lie. I know that's a lie. You have dedicated your life to responding to the truth, which is that monsters are real. They keep you up at night. They keep you up at night because you cannot stand the fact that they haunt the nightmares of so many children. Children who have no support at home, children who have been exploited on the streets and online, children who have been beaten and branded and bought and sold as if they were something on a shelf at a convenience store. Children who are not allowed to grow and flourish. Children who are not allowed to experience laughter and joy. Children who are just trying to survive. I don't know why bad things happen to good people. It's something I have struggled with my entire life. I have struggled with it at times of personal loss in my own life. I have struggled with it when I was U.S. Attorney standing in the pit of Ground Zero and thought about the hundreds of people lost forever without a trace. I think it's a question that is at the core of nearly every faith and philosophy. Why in this world do bad things happen to good people? For those of you who are familiar with the Judeo-Christian tradition, you know that that question is at the center of the book of Job, where Job, who is plagued as a good man by bad things, constantly asks that question. And his answer is a voice from a whirlwind that rebukes him for even asking. How dare you ask that question? I do not know the answer to that question after 53 years of living, but I know one thing. Even though I can't know the answer to that question, I believe that our obligation is to do good and try not to let evil hold that field. That out of bad things, try to make something good. Not that it will ever make the bad thing somehow worth it or justified, but simply because that is our obligation to fight not to let evil hold the field. There was a great British preacher named John Wesley, who 300 years ago said something that captures for me this obligation. He said, "Do all the good that you can, by all the means that you can, in all the ways that you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can." That, I believe, is what this conference is about. It is about not letting evil hold the field against the most vulnerable. It is about using love and passion and inspiration and energy to drive evil from the field. And it is about doing it together, working together to fight and keep evil from holding the field. I want to say just a few words about what we at the FBI are trying to do in that fight together to drive evil from the field. I think most of you have a general idea of what the FBI does, but let me give you just a very brief overview. The FBI's Violent Crimes Against Children section is investigating child sex trafficking, online exploitation, child abductions, and child sex tourism. That's a very heavy workload for a very small group of people. And like you, the burden they carry, in terms of both the responsibility and the emotional toll, is remarkable. But fortunately, we do not shoulder that burden alone. Because, for example, our Innocence Lost program is doing our work together with our state and local partners in 69 task forces across the country. 1,000 state and local law enforcement officers working together with that small group of FBI employees. And since 2003, that group has convicted more than 1,450 predators and identified and recovered more than 3,600 children. In June, as I hope you know, we conducted our 8th Operation Cross Country, and together recovered 168 kids and locked up 281 pimps. Pimps who are stealing the souls I worry sometimes that when people don't know the work the way you do, hear the word pimp, they imagine some vaguely amusing television character. These are people who are stealing the light from our children. And as you know, that sweep was not a one-time deal. We do that in a bunch, one time a year, to make sure the American people know about this threat, but we do it every day with our state and local partners all around the country, all around the clock, to send the same message, that America's kids are not for sale. The Innocence Images National Initiative targets sexual predators on the internet. As you know, with heightened scrutiny in the United States, child pornographers are going further underground and hiding in the shadows and the anonymity of cyberspace. So, our special agents are adopting undercover personas to chase them, to find the online sex traffickers, and training police officers to run cases in a similar way in their own jurisdictions. And of course, they work closely with the great people at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to identify kids and adults who are featured in child pornography. And let me just mention 2 important programs in that regard that I hope you've heard of. Operation Rescue Me with NCMEC is about using image analysis and forensics to identify the kids in these horrific series and images. Are there pictures on the walls? Are there patterns on the furniture? Is there something in the clothes of those involved that allows us to identify? Can we narrow the time frame for the images? Piece together that intelligence may help us find a child. And second, through the Endangered Child Alert Program, we're trying to publicize the characteristics of unidentified offenders, from their faces to their scars, to their tattoos and jewelry and clothing, and then trying to blast that out to the world on billboards and TV programs so that we can identify these predators. To date, we've identified 22 child predators and 70 child victims, including 3 who were depicted in an ongoing series of pornographic images. That's 70 kids who can begin again. Through our Violent Crimes Against Children International Task Force, we're working together to dismantle the enterprises that are producing and distributing child pornography across international borders. I had a chance this morning to shake hands and chat briefly with 16 of our foreign partners who are here this week, sharing best practices and fostering deeper friendships. They know the customs and the traditions of their home countries. They're the first to see emerging threats around the world. And today, we can share information in minutes and take action together. With our friends and partners at Europol and Interpol, we have arrested hundreds of predators around the world. And once we identify those predators, our digital forensic teams find and preserve the vital evidence, which is no easy task, both because of the volume of data we deal with and the high-level encryption, and because it's incredibly disturbing work, but they do it incredibly well. Our child abduction rapid deployment teams move quickly in those golden first few hours after a child is taken to help local law enforcement and do whatever it takes to recover that child and bring the predator to justice. Our child sex tourism initiative is about targeting Americans who would travel to foreign countries, believing that's some kind of freebie, because kids abroad are easy targets. But our goal is to make one thing clear. No child in any country is for sale. No child is meant for this kind of life. And wherever you try to hide, we will find you. Together, we will stop these predators online and on our streets. We will seek jail terms of many, many years for two reasons. To make sure that that predator never offends again, and to send a message to those who might be tempted to offend that we will find you and we will crush you as you would crush our children. I want to turn very briefly to the importance of community relationships, especially with our private sector partnerships. Because just as it takes a village to raise a child, I believe it takes a village to protect a child. Part of our job in this business and in this hall is to find better ways to educate the public about child exploitation. I think in my lifetime we have done a very good job of alerting parents and children to the stranger danger. But as you know, a high percentage of sexual exploitation takes place at the hands of those who are not strangers, but are family members and friends, the very people our children believe they can trust. And with children posting every detail of their lives online, they have opened a door to every predator in every part of the world. And online predators, as you know, are master manipulators of our children, who are too trusting, too naive, and oftentimes too scared to know or to report what's happening to them. Our agents and outreach specialists are determined to teach parents the tactics used by predators and the risks of social networking sites and instant messaging. Our victim specialists are working to help our state and local partners and child advocacy groups recognize sex trafficking and exploitation and get the word out. It is not enough to identify the victims of child exploitation and to prosecute the offenders. The goal of everyone in this room is to prevent that exploitation and work as hard as we can to ensure that families and children get the help that they need. Parents often do not know how to handle these situations. Kids don't know who to trust. We believe we need a whole child approach. Law enforcement, prosecutors, social services, child protective services, NGOs, academia, and the private sector, standing behind each and every child. I especially want to say a word of thanks to our private sector partners. We have asked internet service providers and search engine operators to tell us when they find illegal content on their websites and to retain the data we need to identify and prosecute those people. And social networking sites have agreed to help protect children from inappropriate content and online predators. These are folks in the private sector, but they are performing what is truly a public service, and we're very grateful. I know from my friends in the private sector, it is not always easy to trust the government, but we have to trust each other, especially in this critical area, because we can't allow mistrust or misunderstanding between government and industry to jeopardize even one child's safety. Let me say a word about the heroes of my organization, a small, hardy band of people who have devoted their lives to helping victims. Because taking the predators off the street and offline is very, very important, but true justice must include those who have been victimized by crime. Our Office for Victim Assistance has devoted itself to helping victims and giving them what they need most: food, or shelter, or clothing, or medical attention, or legal help, or counseling. It may sound simple, but a child just taken off the streets is someone for whom a mere change of clothing can change their life. Scrub away the makeup, provide a t-shirt, maybe a pair of sweatpants, and then watch that adult hard eggshell crack and break away, and a child emerge from within. These kids are hungry, they need medical treatment, they need someone they can believe in, and that's just the beginning of what they need. They may have been beaten, abused, and exploited every single day. They have nothing to call their own: no clothing, no food, no education, and no hope. They have been told, this is what you're worth, this is all you're good for, so many times that they have come to believe it. And if we don't provide the help that they need, they will return to the dark world because it is all they have known. FBI victim specialists are the first to tell them, I know you have no reason to trust us, but let me give you a reason. Let me help you. And that may be a lead to counseling, to community resources, job training, or legal help. With the help of these angels in my organization and many others who are represented here today, child victims have turned their lives around. They have gotten the therapy and the medical treatment they need. They have reunited with family members. They've gone back to school. They have had a second chance at leading happy, healthy lives filled with laughter and joy. Because the human spirit is simply amazing. It is resilient. It is capable of overcoming indescribable pain and sorrow. The strength of that spirit, especially in our children, is why we look forward to march on every day. You'll remember Elizabeth Smart, who was the young woman abducted from her home in 2002 and for months subject to grave physical and emotional abuse. Well, she is today an advocate for children who have been abducted. She says people often recognize her and say, hey, aren't you that girl? And she will say, quote, yes, I am the girl that was kidnapped, but I am so much more than that. I am not just that girl. Elizabeth Smart is proof that as human beings we should not be defined by what happens to us, but by how we respond. These child victims are more than the sum of their experiences. One of our victim specialists told a story that has stuck with me, and so I want to share it with you. She said that after FBI agents recovered a young victim from a sex trafficking ring in Reno, Nevada, she was talking to the girl about moving forward with her life. She said to the girl, quote, you weren't created for this purpose. I know this isn't anyone's dream to live this way. And that night, the girl just stared at her with vacant eyes and said, look, I've stopped dreaming a long time ago. That girl was 13 years old. Several months later, after time away from her abusers and that environment, after counseling and medical treatment and support, that same child had a radically different perspective on her life. She said to our victim specialist, I'm actually daring to dream about my life. I'm daring to have hope. In the words of our victim specialist, quote, it's a blessing to tell truth to a child who has been lied to year after year. To say, you can go to school, you can lead a different life. You are not that girl, and that isn't okay. And when you see that sparkle in their eyes, you know that's when they can start to change their whole world. That, I believe, is why you are here. That is why you do the work that you do. Each and every one of you, from law enforcement to child protective services to scholars and social scientists to private sector partners, you are helping these children overcome the nightmare and dream again about what could be and to hope for better days to come. As you do this work, I worry about you because you see the monsters. You know the monsters are real. I know they haunt your own sleep. You do everything you can to make things better for these children, and you feel guilty when you go home because there's more to do. And every hour you spend away from this work is an hour you could be spending rescuing a child. But we need you. The danger in this work is that if you don't take that time, your seeing of the monsters will become an acid that drips and drips inside you until it destroys you, body and spirit. So go home. Hug the people you love and who love you back. Find ways to achieve balance in your life, to refresh, to cleanse, and then go back. The people you are rescuing will be better for it. You will be better for it. and the people of this country will be better served by you in the long run. You are too important to allow that acid to burn you up. There's too much to do. Please look after yourselves. Thank you for choosing to do this with your lives. Thank you for choosing not to let evil hold the field. Thank you, to borrow John Wesley's words again, for all that good. By all those means, in all those ways, in all those places, in all those times, for all those children. May you do that good as long as ever you can. Thank you.